Zaid Jilani, one of the smartest bloggers in America with Think Progress, the Center for American Progress, thinkprogress.org blog, just wrote this classic, brilliant piece that's so you rang my bells that I wanted to get him on to talk about it. Zaid, welcome back to the program. Zaid?
Hello?
Hey, you're on the air.
Hey. Oh, sure. Hey, how are you, Thom?
I am fine. You wrote this brilliant blog. Why aren't Tea Parties demanding that the government hold BP accountable on behalf of taxpayers? And you go through a series of citations of Republican so-called Tea Partiers or enablers or whatever. And frame this story for us, would you?
Okay, so basically, you have the Tea Party movement. The Tea Party movement gets its namesake from the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party, as I'm sure you know, Thom, was basically a historical event based around protesting an unfair tax advantage, actually a tax cut given to a giant foreign British corporation, a state-backed corporation, the East Indian Trading Company.
Yes, I wrote a book about it.
Well, and I'm sure you know. So what I found myself asking myself was, why don't we have the modern iteration of the Tea Party, the Tea Partiers, out in force protesting against BP, which is another British foreign massive corporation that's getting special tax advantages in the form of billions of dollars in tax breaks and expenditures.
You're talking about like the $75 million liability cap when, in fact, they may generate $1 trillion worth of damages.
Right. We have a $75 million cap on liability for oil spills, for oil corporations right now. That means that if it goes above that, you and I are going to have to foot the bill. Taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill. And if the Tea Partiers are concerned about taxpayers, then they should be demanding that the government hold BP accountable and lift that oil spill liability cap and also end those billions of dollars in special tax breaks, loopholes, and expenditures that they give the oil industry on behalf of taxpayers.
Right. And why are they not?
You know, I tell a lot of my friends this. See, I'm not originally from D.C. I'm from Georgia. So I lived there as soon as last year, and I knew a lot of Tea Partiers. I knew a lot of conservatives, and I felt like a lot of them had the same concerns as you or I or any other progressive about big corporations and the way they're kind of running amok in this country. But the people who are funding the Tea Party, the people who claim to speak for them, like Dick Armey or Freedom Works or the Club for Growth, these people are corporate funded, they're corporate backed, and they don't have any interest in helping out the average American, the average family that's struggling to get by and pay their taxes while you have oil corporations trying to put the cost of their oil spills on us. And I think that what Tea Partiers need to do is to start thinking about what is a priority for their families and for their towns and for their middle-class American towns, and not just what Dick Armey tells them to do and not what Freedom Works tells them to do, because at the end of the day, I think that's what the Tea Partiers think they're doing. They think they're being independent. The political system is standing up for themselves, and I think they need to start doing that, and not just taking orders. Here's
the problem with this. We're talking with Zaid Jilani, who's one of the head bloggers over at thinkprogress.org and a really, really smart observer of the American scene here. And last week in Detroit, we had a live report on this show, in fact, from the U.S. Social Forum in Detroit.
Right.
15, or social network, excuse me, as few as 15,000, maybe 20,000 people showed up, progressives from all over the United States, in fact, from all over the world, but mostly all over the United States, at all these workshops and forums on social networking and things. 15,000 people showed up in Detroit. And the only cameras that were there were the cameras from the TV network that carries our show on Dish Network and DirecTV, Free Speech TV, the only basically progressive TV network that's totally 100% dedicated to that out there. And we were interviewing Don Rojas, who's with Free Speech TV, and he's like, there's not even a local TV camera here. There is, on the other hand, if you had a Tea Party in Detroit with 500 people, it would be a national story and all the cameras would be there. And the reason why is because what Dick Armey has done so brilliantly is they've got several, it isn't just that they're funded by right-wingers, they're run by PR firms. And so when they want to mobilize the Tea Party people and they want to get them a lot of exposure, they get them a lot of exposure. And I think that it's been way out of proportion to their actual numbers, first of all. And secondly, hopefully, the Tea Party people are starting to figure out that they've been had, because they're only being asked to come into the streets on those issues that are of interest, like cutting taxes, that are on those issues that are of interest to millionaires and billionaires.
Right, and you look at polling. They've polled the Tea Party crowd several times. There was a poll that just came out this month that said that 56% of Tea Party supporters think that there should be special tariffs on goods from countries that have weak environmental standards. I mean, that's a progressive belief. There was a poll earlier this year that said that nearly half of Tea Partiers want the government to start reining in these, gigantic, way out of proportion executive bonuses on Wall Street. I mean, there's a lot of Tea Partiers who have, think of it as a Venn diagram. Think of progressives as one circle, Tea Partiers as the other. There is an area of overlap. The problem is that the big corporate titans, the people who don't give a lick about middle-class families, are the people who claim to speak for the Tea Partiers, are the ones out there on the podium, the Dick Armeys, the Freedom Works, the Club for Growth, the Sarah Palins. These people are trying to direct the Tea Partiers' anger in one direction, whereas really, if they looked at who's screwing them over, it's the BPs, it's the Goldman Sachs. And that's why I tell my progressive friends, don't mock and deride Tea Partiers. Go after the leadership. Go after the people who claim to speak for them, but invite them to come and stand with us.
Well, I've had them on this program. I mean, almost weekly ever since the thing erupted.
No, you've done a great job. I have to say, I listen to you every now and then. I think you do a great job making that point, Thom.
Thank you. But I'm really stymied here, Zed, and that is that if we progressives can't even get one network to even mention in passing the fact that 15,000 progressives got together for 4 days in Detroit, how can we hope to activate a Tea Party movement that has now its own internal structure? I mean, there's a very, very tightly controlled internal structure of email addresses and phone banks and phone trees and all this stuff that's really basically controlled by Dick Armey and Freedom Works and their little groups. How can we bring them to awareness or awakening? And particularly since the arguably over the last 15, 20 years, but I'd say mostly in the last 8 years or so, the United States has, citizens of the United States have by and large, or people who live here, have by and large stratified, highly verticalized the media that they digest. I mean, it's just amazing to me talking to conservatives. I just had Tom Tancredo on and had an argument with him. He was unaware of the story about the guy who theoretically busted Acorn, that guy had been busted as a phony. I mean, they only watch Fox News and they only listen to right-wing talk radio, and they only read the right-wing websites, where right now, for example, the oil spill's not even happening. And then on the left, people basically just watch Free Speech TV or MSNBC, and they only listen to progressive talk radio, and they only read, Think Progress. And how do we bridge that divide? We got a minute here, Zed, for you to solve the problem of the world.
Well, I'm not going to solve the problem of our media, over a minute, but I will tell you this. The media often, it likes to put on what sells. And I'll tell you a narrative that sells. A narrative that sells is that the Tea Parties aren't going to take orders from Dick Armey and Freedom Works and the Club for Growth and the big corporations at the top anymore. And I think that's a narrative that the media would love to take up, is to love to just see the Tea Partiers themselves splintering into one group that really does care about middle-class families, another one that decides that it's going to stand on the side of BP and Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, my concern is, having...
All I can say is people should talk to their neighbors, talk to their Tea Party friends, and change the dynamic from the bottom up.
Agreed. Having been a reporter for 7 years, though, I'll tell you, reporters tend to react to the press releases that show up. And, Dick Armey's really good at sending those things out, and individual Tea Partiers are not. But we'll see. I continue to be hopeful, too. Zaid Jilani, you can read his writings over at thinkprogress.org. Thanks, Zed.
Thank you, Thom.
Keep up the great work.